Based is a terminology used to describe the greats amongst the greats. Based is a term that MLK Jr. was called when he, in a turbulent time in the United States, asked for peace and equality for his people. Based is a term used on Gandhi for not sleeping with 12-year-old girls as a masterful act of celibacy. A based person does not care what the world thinks. He'll do whatever he thinks is right without succumbing to external pressures. However, it's a word that's lost its meaning in recent times, far gone from the pillar of virtue and courage that it represented long ago. And so in this video, I'll be discussing 5 anime characters that are worthy of being called based. Not only that, I'll also cover bizarre topics related to them, their philosophies, their ideologies, auras, and much more that exemplify their baseness. Number 1, we got Thorfinn from Vinland Saga. The idea that the character of Thorfinn signifies is that of pacifism, that war and violence is unjustifiable, and that disputes must be solved through peaceful methods instead of brutalities and pillaging. As a kid, Thorfinn was exposed to a great deal of love by a sister who loved him, a mother that cooked for him, and a father that imparted words of wisdom that echoed with him throughout his whole life. And then his dad got murdered, and he spent the next 11 years doing nothing but disgusting acts of violence on a lot of innocent people. The flame of revenge after his dad died was so strong that it dragged him through the depths of hell, with bloodlust being his only driving factor. Like, he just kept killing so many people for like 11 years. But I guess all this brutality makes sense. With Nordic culture being highly barbaric, towns getting pillaged, men getting killed, women being raped, and children being sold off to slavery was nothing but a normal Tuesday. No tacos on this Tuesday, however. I assumed that whole thing was a part of Vinland Saga's world, similar to how you'd expect guts gushing out during fights in Tokyo Ghoul, or a human getting minced by a titan in Attack on Titan, or everything that's ever happened to Guts ever, until Thorfinn's introspection. This series of events that happened in Vinland Saga until now deceived me into thinking that just because the world of Vinland Saga is so insanely cruel, it's just not realistic. We saw Thorfinn kill hundreds of soldiers. We saw him betray a family that gave him food and shelter and leave them to get pillaged. We saw him kill an innocent father in front of his very own child. Thorfinn should not be redeemable. Everything he did was wrong. He is going to hell. But he's just a kid. He didn't know any better. We all would have killed literally everyone around us if our dad died the way he died. It also makes it kind of remarkable that he was able to get a farmer and atone for the sins that he committed in a world where the society's moral compass does not even acknowledge those sins as sins. And he eventually became a pacifist, very similar to Gandhi, who believed in the proponents of ahimsa, which literally translates to non-violence, and the belief that every conflict can be and should be resolved without the use of violence. But then again, I don't know about taking the word of a twink that invites naked women onto his bed to not have sex with him. Yeah, that's a real thing. Nonetheless, Thorfinn finally found a way to cope with his sins through forgiveness, working slave hours farming, and pulling a 6 out of 10 white bitch with daddy issues. Number 2, we got Toji Zenin from Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't even think I need to explain this one. He's the guy that your girl tells you to worry about. Just look at this guy. What he lacks in cursed energy, he makes up for in getting every woman in a 50-meter vicinity to rub their clitoris, which is considered premarital sex and therefore is haram and is of bad faith. And so technically this action could form a pool of cursed energy, because cursed energy is a power source aligned with negative emotions, and so Toji would be the first person to have access to cursed energy through pure sex appeal and naughty thoughts. If this gets written into JJK, you heard it here first. And you know what? Toji wouldn't even care that he has access to this haram cursed energy, because he doesn't need cursed energy. He can just beat the shit out of literally most sorcerers through physical willpower. If there's one guy in the whole JJK verse that I can say truly is free, it's this guy right here. And that freedom comes from the rejection that he faced from Jujutsu society that made him to a ferocious animal who kills without mercy. The man that casts aside everything he was born with and everything he built after being born, with the trauma of being the fucking best and yet not receiving a shred of acknowledgement for it because he wasn't born with cursed energy until he met his wife. Meeting her was the equivalent of rainbows and roses laced with crack cocaine. Suddenly, life is looking up. The glass is half full, the panties are not soggy but wet, and gambling is not just a degenerate pastime but a full-time plus ultra opportunity to put food on the table and make it out the hood. Thus is born Fushiguro Toji, a feminist that took his wife's name and had a kid with her whilst abandoning his ungrateful ass clan for good. And then his wife dies and he sells his kid to the same clan that disowned him, and he goes back to being a degenerate gambler. So maybe technically he didn't really learn anything, but hear me out. An alpha male like Toji, he cannot raise a kid, at least not one without daddy issues. And what better way to not let a kid have daddy issues than raise him without a daddy to have issues with? You get what I'm trying to throw at you, homeboy? You get what I'm trying to say? And look, I'm just saying, okay, if my father sold me off to slavery, it would be an honor, because that would mean that he saw in me a will to dream. He saw in me a desire that cannot be tapped into and unlocked if I had a two-parent household, that in order for my greatness to come out, I need to be raised in the Detroit foster care system without a father figure and figure out for myself who I am and what my destiny could be. I need to see the trenches. I need to see the bottom of the barrel so that I am not afraid of the fall, because I felt the ground before. But Toji wasn't thinking about all that when he was selling Megumi to the Zenin clan. He was thinking about how much money he was gonna get so he could blow it all on degenerate gambling. Typical single father activities. However, even Toji was able to feel some sort of guilt for selling Megumi to the clan, as after dying by the hands of the greatest sorcerer of this era, the motherfucker came back just to solo half the verse. The moment he entered the ring, everyone was shook. Domain expansions don't mean shit when Toji's around. Nobody ever should be able to come back from the dead. Even with the use of jujutsu sorcery, there's no way for him to be conscious, and that's exactly the case. He went off on pure combat instinct and started flexing his go-to moves on that retarded octopus. And after making takoyaki so good it made the Osaka boys jealous and seething, he went after his own son. But here's the thing, even while being completely zoned out of his mind, there light a small flame of love within his heart. A love for his next kin, a love for his lineage, a love for what he once loved. And out of that act of love, he... And to that, I'm going to introduce you to number 3, Omni Man from... Omni Man is the ultra white boy, off rip with the incredibly proportionate jawline that bulges out of his skull, who has no problems pulling the baddest of the bad Asian chick. Not only did he pull her, but he also plays the duty of a virtuous husband and a kind father to his little Asian boy.
Did you see? Oh, that was amazing!
Yeah.
Until he pretty much called her a pet.
A pet?
And rammed his son through a pool of blood in a crowded train. Can you imagine raising your child with a woman for 20 years? Probably met her annoying fucking parents that you had to win over by beating her father and her reincarnated ancestors in a sword duel or something. I don't know, is that racist? Celebrating every anniversary, every birthday, going to every baseball game, and the only perspective you have of her is that, yeah, she's kind of like a dog to me. Like, what kind of furry shit is that, Omni Man? Or so that's what he wants to think. Because throughout all that, right, throughout his mission, which was initially to annex planet Earth, he got weak, he got soft. He started liking his dog wife in a certain way that he couldn't explain, though not being able to fully articulate what he was feeling until later on. When he got some fucking bug pussy. After Omni Man beats the shit out of his son in Season 1 and then leaves Earth, we see him again in Season 2, this time with his new alien bug wife, mixed species kid who's purple. And now he understands everything about the world, and he's talking about deep existential stuff about how he's sad because he killed so many people, and now he doesn't want to do that anymore because he has a new purple kid instead of a Asian. And at first I'm like, oh brother, this guy stinks. What happened to his undying conviction that the strongest in the world deserves to do what they want and all the weaklings should scatter like cockroaches when the kitchen lights turn on? But then I see his alien bug wife, who's probably thick as fuck under all the clothes she wears, but she doesn't wear any revealing clothing because only he deserves to see what's under, and that though she might not be the prettiest, she tries. This change in thought was already brewing in his mind when he had his Korean wife back in Earth, but he didn't really realize it until his new bug alien wife made him realize so. None of these wives were smoking hot or let Omni Man do a line of coke out of their ass, but they loved him. Now he's just confused and wants to die as a way to atone for those sins. It was quite a dynamic shift from when he saw humans as bugs and now even bugs as humans, a journey of a strong man learning empathy through forming bonds with the weak. However, this passport bro story is far from complete.
I miss my wife.
I'm really excited to see where this white man's journey goes as he learns that there are different women across the entire world that are all hot, and that one white chick that rejected him ain't shit. Sometimes you need to go to another universe and get yourself a Chinese bug dog wife to put things into perspective. Number 4, we got Bon Clay from One Piece. Whatever you think of the word base, a bunch of masculine, ultra chads come to your mind, but none of them hold a candle to this kinda ugly, kinda cute looking queer with pretty nice eyelashes. He's got nice eyelashes. Let me just list some of Bon Clay's achievements in the 12 or so chapters he was in One Piece, alright? Sanji's the #1 transphobe in the entire series, to the point that he unlocked the ability to run in the air because a bunch of queers would not stop chasing him. However, when it came to Bon Clay, yes, Sanji was still repulsed by his hairy legs and ugly face, but he left the fight with a newfound respect for this guy. Can your favorite tranny do that? But it's not just limited to that. You see, there's a lot of Sanjis in the real world. Even in the One Piece community, there exists a bunch of red-pilled anti-LGBT fans that jerk off to Ben Shapiro as he destroys an 18-year-old lesbian girl with green hair and dirty legs, even though he's ducking real debates from professionals. But no matter what forum I go to, maybe the YouTube comments, Instagram, Reddit, Bon Clay literally has 0 haters. None. 0. Nada. And the reason for that is a virtue he embodies. A virtue that enamors even the people that don't share the same ideology. A virtue so simple yet so rare to find, which coincidentally is also his second achievement. When the enemies are crawling up your asshole and there's no way out, it's Bon Clay that stands up to sacrifice himself in order to protect his friends that he literally met at the start of the arc. As a queer character, it's implied that he's never been accepted in society a whole lot. Neither has his way of being life been respected nor cared for, until he eventually found a role model and got inspired enough to live by the ideology of the Okama way, which is literally slang for queer in Japanese. By embodying this slang, which is supposed to be derogatory, he's sending a message to the world that he does not give a fuck and will live his life his own way. This is further accentuated by the kind of power he possesses, a devil fruit power that gives him the ability to literally become whoever he wants. However, despite that power, he still chooses to be himself and live his Okama way. He could use gaslighting tactics, he could call every man ugly, he could play victim and get alimony, but he does not do that. He does not take revenge on this cruel world for treating him poorly because of his gender orientation. He does not take revenge on the world for treating him like trash. He does not take revenge on this world or stay bitter about it. No, he does not. Because the Okama way includes virtues like absolute friendship and going all out when it comes to upholding it to the best of his abilities. And it shows in his actions, like when he lets the Straw Hats escape post-Alabasta, even if it meant being shoved inside the most gruesome prison for it. And then he does it again during Marineford. If that's not base, I don't know what is. Number 5 is the first thing he asks people when he meets them is, what's their type in a woman?
What kind of woman's your type?
And if he does not get a satisfactory answer, well, he just beats the fucking shit out of him. The moment that sells you to him, even if you aren't already moved by this amazing question to ask on the first encounter. But the moment that sold me to him was him appearing in Shibuya to save Yuji as he was getting his ass clapped by Mahito, and then giving one of the greatest one-liners I've ever seen in any shonen I've ever seen. Oh my god. Against a special grade nonetheless, Todo was not thinking about, oh shit, what do I do? How do I calculate and predict my opponent's moves and counterattack? He's thinking about e-girls that have big titties and incredibly large muscles in their thighs. Not only did he beat Mahito in the end, he also got the e-girl in his brain.